Good evening, party people. Tonight, we witnessed the power of the Leafs. And I'm not talking the power that they displayed in the first two games against the Canucks. Tonight, they played the third of the three games they were playing that team. And tonight was a different kind of power. Because for the first time in these three games, and probably the first time in a long time, the Canucks actually had a couple of really good periods. First period and second period, they basically were the much better team. And going into the third period, I believe the shots were 28-7, maybe, in favor of Vancouver. So they were basically quadrupling the Leafs in shots. Now, it wasn't like an all-out attack by Vancouver, spending the whole time in the Leafs zone. The Leafs did have their fair share of zone time. They just couldn't really generate anything. They were. This was the first game in a while that the Leafs came out kind of flat. They were a little disjointed, a little disorganized. They couldn't really string passes together like they usually do. They didn't have their speed going. And so I think it was a combination of that. Vancouver wasn't as bad as they were in those first two games, and also the Leafs weren't nearly as good as they were in those first two games. So I don't necessarily think that Vancouver suddenly went from playing really shitty to playing really awesome. I just think that there was kind of an equal kind of a little bit better Vancouver, a little bit worse Toronto sort of thing going on that made those first two periods what they were. Now, that being said, the Leafs were first on the board in the first period, about 6.5 minutes in. They managed to take advantage of a kind of a goal, front of the net scramble. It was the Leafs had been in the zone a bit, and the puck eventually came out front, and Hyman was trying to bang away at it and put it in, but the Vancouver defenseman Schmidt kind of had him tied up, so he couldn't really get a stick on it. And as he was tying Hyman up, he tried to kick the puck out into the corner maybe or something like that to get it out of the danger zone. And what he didn't realize is that Riley had left his point and kind of curled around and was just kind of zooming in right to where he kicked it. So Riley just basically stepped into a snapshot and put it by Holtby for a 1-0 Leaf lead. So, that was only 6.5 minutes into the game, but it was already apparent that the Canucks were having a much better game and the Leafs were a little flat, but they still managed to score first. Over those first two periods, though, despite, outside of that Leaf goal, Vancouver was the better team. Freddie had a really good game, came across on one 2-on-1 and stuck out a pad and made a really good save at some point. I think in the second it was. He looked really good. He was dialed in, and he held them in it while they kind of hopefully managed to eventually get their shit together. But the Vancouver was able to tie things up in the second period, 9.5 minutes in maybe, on the power play. And Pettersson was able to wire one from inside the blue line through some traffic that beat Freddie. So there we had a 1-1 game. And on that play, this is a little bit of a story for later, but Kerfoot kind of had the puck come to him suddenly, and I don't think he anticipated it being passed right to him because it came from a Vancouver player, so he kind of bobbled it when he got it, and he wasn't able to clear the puck out of the ice the puck and relieve the pressure during that power play, and Vancouver was able to keep it in, and that's when they would eventually score that tying goal, and you could tell that Kerfoot was a little pissed at himself for allowing that to happen. So moving forward, those were the way the first two periods went. Like I said, shots were around 28-7 going into the third, 1-1 game. Leafs finally got their shit together and came out and played a much better third period. After being outplayed vastly in the first two periods, they then took control in the third. And within 11 seconds, about 9.5 minutes into the third period, they scored 2 goals and basically put this game away. So that's kind of the power this team kind of showed tonight, is that, okay, yeah, you can run us around the first two periods, but we'll just have our goalie hold us in it for a while, and then we'll just come out in the third and win it and basically score at will, right? Like that's what this team is capable of doing. You don't want to bank on that happening every game, but when they do have a bit of a bad game, as long as their goalie can keep them in it, they don't need much time to score some goals, right? So the first goal was scored by Matthews, and it was off of a face-off, and the draw would go back to excuse me, Sandin at the point, who played his first game of the season tonight, who then put it down the left side wall to Marner, who then immediately centered high in the slot for Matthews, who just ripped it past Holtby low through the 5-hole, I think it was, and that was 2-1. 11 seconds later, one of the Vancouver defensemen was kind of diddling around with it in his own zone, thought he had more time, but big speedy Mikheyev chased him down, jarred the puck free, tossed it out front, and Kerfoot kind of swooped in and scored a quick one on Holtby, which was like vindication after he made that gaffe in the second period that led to the only Vancouver goal. So that was kind of nice to see him get a bit of vengeance there. So yeah, so then 3-1. They Leafs took a late penalty in the game, so Vancouver pulled their goalie fairly earlier than normal, like 2.5, 3 minutes left. So they had a 6-on-4 kind of going. But the Leafs, because they were killing a penalty, they were able to just ice the puck and not be penalized for it with a face-off in their own end. So they were able to kill it off and seal the game, and there you have it. So unfortunately, Simmons was not in the game because in the last game, he took a clearing attempt. The puck just hit him kind of in the wrist on the glove. And it was just a weak clearing attempt, but he was kind of bothered by it, and I think that was in the third period, so he didn't play anymore after that, and I just thought, they're holding him out for precautions, right? But it must have got him in a sensitive spot or something, because he was out of the lineup tonight. Now, I'm hoping it's not going to be long, but he's the type of guy that during a game like that where the Leafs were not doing that great, could have really turned the game around with a monster hit or goading somebody into a fight, right? Like he did in the opening game of the series of the season against Montreal, right? So I think they missed his presence, and the commentators also made note that with Simmons out of the lineup, the Leafs chose to dress 7 defensemen and only have 11 forwards, and maybe that kind of had the lines a bit disjointed or whatever. So, but whatever the case, Fred kept them in it for 2 periods, and then they took over in the third and won the game. And Vancouver's got to be not feeling all that great about themselves right now, which I don't really care because I don't like that team. So, yeah, so Sandin, like I said, got in for his first game of the season. He looked all right. Lettinen, the other rookie defenseman, or I guess Sandin's not a rookie, but he hasn't played that many games for the Leafs. But Lettinen continues to look really good and solid, and and this team just, no matter what they're faced with, they just continue to roll. Marner and Matthews were kind of a little disjointed tonight, but eventually hooked up for a goal and looked a lot better in the third. So, this is bound to happen. You can't be on the ball every game of the season. It's just too hard to be that consistent. You're going to throw out the odd dud now and again. In this case, the Leafs were able to rally in the third and win it. But you are going to have those types of games where you just don't have it, right? So the thing is, you don't want to have too many of those games, especially in a row. So it's the Leafs' kind of response to that type of game that's important now. So they play Montreal on Wednesday, and so those are the 2 top teams in the North, the Leafs and the Habs, that will be going at it on Wednesday. So what I'd like to see is a much better start and a much better effort in that game against Montreal than we saw tonight against Vancouver, which I'm expecting to see, because like I've commented in the videos so far this year, this team really looks like it's maturing and starting to figure things out. So I am expecting them to come out kind of all guns blazing on Wednesday against Montreal, and they should get up for it too. Like it's the team right below them at the top of the standings. It's the biggest rivalry, in the history of hockey. So I'm thinking they're going to be ready to go. So I haven't heard anything about Simmons' injury for sure. So hopefully it's just a short-term thing, and it would be nice if he could be in the lineup on Wednesday. So I'll be looking forward to see if that happens or not. And then the other thing is that Joe Thornton has started to skate too. So hopefully he'll be back soon too. And and that top line will get their guy back, and they can hopefully have a full lineup at some point soon. So so a great game, a great win. Well, not a great game, a great third period, a win, and another 2 points, and they continue to roll. So we'll see what happens on Wednesday. I'm excited about that one, so can't wait. Peace.